This canyon wall carried my tune. The only one to hear my song are the coyotes and the wolves. But if I drink enough of this flask, I can hear them sing your song too.
Hi, this is Robert Leiterman with the Bluff Creek Project. Today I'm with Jonathan Easley, and we've been interviewing people who did the Bluff Creek. Is it Bluff Creek?
It was initially
19.
the BC-19,
Yeah.
but as I said at the end of the hike, in a celebratory way, hey, we accomplished the BC-1.
The BC-1. Well, actually, if you count the time you went up and then turned around and came back, the BC-2.
The BC-2, we'll go with that.
BC-2. And elevation gain was probably, I know that 1 mile was probably about as much you don't want to do with doing about 3 or 4 of the other miles. It's pretty
Correct.
steep.
Yeah, it was pretty steep, which I didn't expect probably that much incline. It wasn't enough incline to where you noticed it, but the fatigue in your body sure noticed it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, mentally you don't notice it, but your body starts feeling it and you're not understanding why.
And it's kind of a cumulative thing.
Yeah.
And it's prorated, so
Mm-hmm.
the more you torture yourself, the quicker it comes on, and the less chance you have to prepare for it, because you're like, oh, it's too late, I'm already shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to some other guys earlier. It's just like, just as soon as you thought it couldn't get any worse, it did.
Over and over. It was like over and over, yeah.
It's like, okay, what can I do differently? You know, nothing. You just have to keep going.
Yeah. So, as far as what would we do differently, I would say that entire stretch of the creek, creek is a term you use very lightly. It's more of river, because, you know, once you look at the map, there are a bunch of creeks that feed into Bluff Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we were wading through a strong, very strong current on very slippery rocks. I use the term ice, and I literally mean ice. It's as slippery as ice. And, you know, we're using trekking poles. If you didn't have a trekking pole, it would be impossible to do. The current's pushing you one way. You're trying to walk across the river, and we'd had to do that multiple times, you know. And although it was only waist deep at most points, it's like you fall over waist deep into boulders, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Getting pinned under a boulder or pinned against a boulder was like not out of the question. Like that's what you're kind of expecting to happen. Everything's jagged and sharp there.
Right.
So, yeah, the expectation for next time, I would say just completely avoid that part of the river. It really is impassable, and it really is unsafe. And maybe starting at a location like Wright's Place would be better. But, you know, we visited Wright's Place, and, you know, that was no cakewalk either. You know, there was, I feel like the volume of water was only slightly less, but it was wider. So you don't know at what point in the canyon it's going to narrow up again for, you know, temporarily, and
Right.
and it would become impassable again.
Yeah, it's like the hydrology of it, the hydraulics. It's like when it's wider, it spreads out. When it gets to be narrow canyon, it moves faster.
Mm-hmm.
And the water volume, it's the same amount of water is going through, just at a higher rate. So, and then you have a little bit of algae on the rocks, makes it slippery, and then add incline. And then like in snow country, you follow the person with snowshoes in front of you, and they do all the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Going up those canyons, you're walking along, and first person has dry rocks to step on. The
Yeah.
second and third and the fourth do not. It gets soaked by the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let's tell our viewers, or sorry, I should say our listeners, what we're at Six Rivers National Forest. It's July 30th of 23, and you're getting ready to go home, because you've been there for what, a whole week?
Yeah, whole week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long week. I mean, how many people went on this adventure?
So it was Kip Morrill, Ron Reed, Tate, myself, and a dog named Bandit. And, you know, all of us have a fair amount of outdoors experience, you know, some more than others. And we felt pretty solid with the crew that we had, especially Kip and his background. that kind of really played into it. But yeah, it was just us. I mean, we had more people that were planning to come, but just like with any other trip,
Yeah.
you know, the factors of life kind of
Oh, yeah.
put a stop to that.
I'm guilty of that because I was supposed to be with you guys, but the place I work at just informed me and says, oh, by the way, you have mandatory training you have to be at. And then I'm in charge of some programs, so I couldn't not show up.
Well, make sure to send them a thank you note.
I was heartbroken. I was like, oh, I can't do this. And then part of me says, well, you know, it's that bad part of the thing. Do you really want to do it with your hip not as good as it should be? And you're like probably the oldest guy here. You're like 62. You know, is that really a good idea? I'm thinking, well, you know, maybe you're right, but it's an adventure of a lifetime, and I feel like I'm getting left out, and I want to be part of it. And then I don't become part of it, and so I'm teaching, taking care of my things, and then I see email comes in and goes, no, we're turning around. And part of me goes, what? And part of me goes, good, I didn't miss anything. But obviously I missed a lot of adventures. So what were your anticipations? What were you expecting? I mean, we had our meetings ahead of time that were going to be at a certain time in a certain place. And people were talking about what equipment to bring. And everybody's getting excited about it. Mm-hmm. And I know you guys looked at Google Earth. I'm pretty sure everybody did. You know, like, there's not a lot there. You can't really blow up the Google too much because you lose the focus of details.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that used to be 64 kind of washed away a mountain and it diverted the river. Mm-hmm. So, but when you drive by in a car off of 96, you look that direction past the bridge, and you see no vegetation on the sides of those hills going up the canyon for quite a ways. Mm-hmm. And then you can actually see boulders from the roadway. So
correct. Yeah. And, you know, I've passed by Highway 96 and kind of parked and taken a look down the river, and it's like, you know, you don't focus on all those little things because you're not destined to go, like, hike it. You're like, oh, well, it's a river, and oh, look at this. And it is interesting to see the geology of that the 64 flood and it blasting out did. But, and then Google Earth, like you said, you know, you look at Google Earth, and I would say it was actually like misinformation looking at Google Earth because, you know, it sells it to you real pretty. You're like, oh, there's some trees there to walk along, and you just assume that there's this beach under those trees, and it's not. It's jagged, sharp boulders that you're jumping over. I mean, we were climbing over stuff 10 feet tall and with 1 foot, you know, 1 foot in the river, wet shoes. It was just, it's not what, there was no way to anticipate what we were getting into. There was just no source of information that would have told us that we were getting into what we were doing.
You guys are pioneers.
Well, see, that's the thing. And a lot of people might look at this as a failed hike. Oh, they failed. You know, we saw places, I promise you, we saw places of Bluff Creek up there that people probably haven't seen in decades. And even Tate's drone was flying up and down the canyon, and he was in and out of reception. It was really hard to navigate. To fly a drone off the Bluff Creek Bridge that far is not possible. So I don't know how you'd be able to see what we saw. And the things we found were amazing. We found the mother of all swimming holes, first of all. Beautiful, deep blue and green. Sorry, we got a little ruckus going on behind us here in the woods. But anyway, deep blue green with a river pouring into it. We all jumped in and swam on it. And there's some sort of gold mining operation that was set up there. It's a structure that's completely washed away, and there's this sluice box still coming out of it. And I was very excited to find that. You see, I'm from Southern California, and I had a few friends, and one of my friends' passions was going up and finding things that people haven't seen. And that is a lot of ruckus going on back there. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'll interrupt just for a second. Yeah, part of the group's going over to Twin Lakes after here, and everybody's packing their stuff up. We're on the farthest we can get on this big wide open area. This is the headwaters, not the headwaters, but 12 and 13, and we're right at the junction where 12 and 13H, the road to the film site, heads down. So we get cell reception here. So it gets to be like a gathering point. So we're off to the far side, and they're packing stuff up, getting ready to go. And I guess they forgot we were here doing this, but it wouldn't be the first time.
I'm talking about back here in the woods. There's like rocks tumbling.
Oh, because those guys were throwing rocks over the side over there.
Over here? Over there?
Yeah. Your cohorts over there were throwing rocks down and stuff.
great, fantastic.
And then it
So-
goes down the hill, and we hear it echo right behind us. So we have to look over
okay.
our
I thought
shoulder
there was
going,
something down there coming up to us. So
well, we had some activity here earlier. We didn't, I should say. Terry did.
yeah,
And I listened to her stories, and she's talking about seeing things and shining lights on them and hearing things on both sides and conversations and something crossing the road. And so that's why we're always looking over our shoulder. But anyhow,
yeah.
continue.
Sorry about that. So anyway, yeah, we from Southern California. I started off backpacking with this friend, and his passion was to go into places, most of them off trail, and find these, gold mines. And it was amazing. He'd see things from the 1960s and 70s, and beer cans, soda cans that you can still look at, and it's like some Pepsi from the 60s
With
and
the pull tops.
with the pull tops, and
Yeah.
I've never seen one of those, not even in like a museum or something like that. So you sometimes follow him into some of these places, and you see some historic things that you're the only person seeing it in decades.
Right.
And there's a history to it, and you like to learn the history, and just like anything else, you learn this basic history about some gold mine. It opens up a window of history to other things, and pretty soon like the history of half the mountain range. And I was kind of hoping for that here. And when I saw that gold mine, that abandoned old washed out gold mining operation, I said, oh man, there's a story to this. I wonder if it happened before the flood,
Or-
after the flood.
Yeah.
There used to be an old road there, and we were looking for remnants of the road. And to me, that's exciting. And to me, finding that, I still feel like I came away with this with a win.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people, and this is, in the backpacking and hiking community, I feel like a lot of people would understand this, but in the bigfooting community, there's a sense of wonder, but there's a lack of sense of adventure. And there's only a few people that I've talked to that have that sense of adventure to kind of go out into some old road that doesn't exist anymore. Last time we were here, we were trying to get to thinking about getting down to Scorpion Creek through some old road that was over there.
Yeah, on this side off the Lonesome Ridge.
Yeah, and that was very interesting to me. Who knows what you'd find? Somebody drop something or some,
Right.
That's interesting. And so having seen that beautiful big deep blue pool, swam in it, and seeing that gold mining operation, that kind of justified the adventure for me. That I left excited and satisfied, and
That's
maybe some people without a sense of adventure would look at it as some sort of failure, but not me.
well. You had some taxation on the way in, so when you got to there, the experience was an expensive experience, but it was worth every penny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like I'd rather. There's this I guess this applies to like the whole Bigfoot thing. There's a sense of wonder that you have inside, and you can either sit there with that sense of wonder, or you can go in there and find out the truth. And walking up that river that we've always looked at, what's over there? What's just around that corner? And man, it was really neat to see the canyon and just things that people have not seen before. And I filmed it all as best as I could. I'm walking around just to let everybody know my camera rig that I carry on my camera strap is, I want to say, about $4,500, and everybody was kind of like, don't fall. And I told Kip, I go, you know what the secret to not falling at? Because everybody fell once.
Right.
Everybody ended up chest and neck deep. And I said the secret is to carry a $4,500 camera on your strap, and you won't fall.
The motivation's a little
The
greater.
motivation's a little greater, yeah.
Yeah, and knee pads and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember carrying things that had some value, and when I would fall, I'd throw my shoulder down and throw my body on the ground to protect it. And I'm a little too old to be doing that, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of it. That's an investment. That's your baby. It's like, but you've done a lot of work. I mean, you've got a lot of videos you put together.
Yeah. I put together a few videos. A lot of them are from up here. I do have like an Idaho one and Oregon one that I'm working on. But yeah, I mean, up here's the cream of the crop for me, just because of the history mixed in with the current activity that we've heard some pretty strange things up here.
Yeah.
And so the idea behind this was to go into a place that humans don't go into, and if trying that, if people think that that's not a great thing, well, then they don't have a sense of adventure, I guess.
Well, there's a lot of armchair researchers.
Oh yeah, I know.
And a lot of people, at first it was like, okay, don't tell anybody, we're going to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want anybody setting us up for failure right away. We had such great Sasquatch experiences, and then we realized the whole team was waiting up for us to make our visit worthy, and that didn't happen. So we have to. I say we because that was in the back of my mind beforehand.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't tell anybody. When you finish, share the accomplishment you did, and then the other part too is when you start telling people. Now you feel like you're obligated to complete it. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Not all expeditions are. I shouldn't say successful. Success is measured differently, but not all expeditions reach the goals they've set.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did set a big one. Now it was the 19 meant the miles from the Klamath River, where Bluff Creek puts in, up that steep part, and then to the very end, which is the film site, which is going to be the ending part of the journey.
Yep.
And it's going to be about 4 nights.
Mm-hmm.
Each leg was broken into a reasonable amount.
Mm-hmm. And
the first stop was Wright's Place. And being a history buff, there's an old fish hatchery used to be there too. So you would have saw some remnants of that. And I was like, how'd it go? Oh, we made it to Wright's Place, and we're half dead, but we can recover, and we can resupply, and then continue to the next place, which is just past Bigfoot Creek, which has history of strange experiences. And the natives have story talking about the creatures there. And I was really looking forward to hearing if you guys had anything special or any weird thing go on there. And then that was supposed to be another place where we're going to try to get down the road to resupply, but we had a big winter. And trees and everything is like, all the access points are blocked. You have to work through it. And then after that, there are no more access points to Laos.
Correct. Yeah.
And I know that's something to think about. It's like, okay, you did turn around and came back, which I think is a good decision.
Yeah. There were a lot of factors in that, and you have to think with your brain and not your heart. Your heart wants to keep going up the canyon, and I had a hard time with that. When we got to that swimming hole type deal, we would have had to swim across, probably chest deep, to get to the other side and then continue on. I was like, well, let's do this. I think we can do it. I've done it before, but, we had a couple. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody because I keep saying, oh, I wanted to do it. But I'll say this: I was very thankful to have Kip, and given his background experience, he was able to make a solid decision for the group and say, you know what, guys, we need to stop, and we need to spend the night here. We're all beat. We're exhausted. And, once I came back after swimming in that watering hole, and I say came back, we came back maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand feet back. But that couple thousand feet takes 25 minutes. You're literally boulder hopping in and out of the water. And when I say in the water, you're stepping knee deep, and there's rapids, just to the right of you. It's like, it was rough. Right? Okay, I said I would put it this way if somebody asked me about it.
Yeah.
It's as difficult as you can possibly imagine. Picture this insane river next to you, just boulders everywhere.
Yeah.
When you step on the rocks underneath the water, they're all like ice. They're all slippery. You never, ever have solid footing. Never. The only time you have solid footing is when you're up on top on the boulders, and even then your shoes are wet.
Right.
Right?
Especially after somebody else went on the boulder, you follow them up.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you have to get out of the water on a slick surface on an angle to continue on with packs. How heavy would you say your pack was?
My pack was around 27 pounds.
So that's light.
Yeah, I try to go as light as I can, but then I didn't measure in that you throw this, camera, this big old DSLR camera on there. Now, 27 is really light until you're holding on to one boulder, have one foot in some fast-moving water that's, with questionable footing, a trekking pole 2 feet in front of you, and you're reaching with your hand to try to do this, and your weight has to sway around this boulder, and it's not just your weight, it's your pack weight. It's relying on like 2 little points. It's like so you end up using your abdominal muscles, your back muscles more, and it just plays on that level of exhaustion from head to toe, my neck to my feet. I can feel myself getting tired. And as far as level of shape goes, like, this isn't self-bragging, it's just letting you know how hard this hike was. given, my background. I can stand up right now, and 6 miles would be a breeze to me. I can go run 6 miles right now, breeze.
And you look in great shape.
Thank you very much, Robert. I'm glad you noticed.
Yeah. Me here. I'm kind of gaining a little bit around the center part, but you look great.
No, thank you very much. But so it was exhausting. Maybe, I don't know if I was in the best shape out of the group, probably, but I was very thankful that Kip said, we're staying here, we're spending the night, and there was literally one spot in this, most of the hike that you could spend the night on, or else you're going to sleep on a boulder. Kip did sleep on a boulder. He slept on a flat boulder, and if he rolled over either way, he'd fall in the water. And Ron, Tate, and I, we all cowboy camped. There was no room for any shelter or tent, heck no. So we just literally threw our pads out at like 6 o'clock p.m. and laid down, and all of us took we must all slept like 12 hours. We were so tired. So we were all like almost shoulder to shoulder on this tiny the only little piece of sandy beach that was there in the whole hike. So.
And the whole time you guys are going, okay, 18 more miles to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We've used one day,
and
we're scheduled for 4. That means we have to make up the difference on these other days, which is it. I did a section of Pacific Australia. Mm-hmm. I was good with maps, so guess what my job was? Mm-hmm. You're the orienteer. You got to make sure how many miles, where the locations were going to stop. So I thought it was good. Mm-hmm. I did it. I was seasoned for the parks. I worked backcountry rangering. I got this. But I didn't know that the topography and the maps weren't updated, and I didn't know that the Wright ski resort hadn't been built. It hadn't been built yet. They were working on it, and that the trails were gone because they were reconstructing everything.
Oh man!
And the trip started out. Once we got out of the car, we had to off a highway at 39. The Beach Boulevard goes all the way up to the mountains, Angeles National Forest. Mm-hmm. You're probably familiar with that.
Yeah.
There's a part of it missing. We had to rope it and carry our packs with 5 days of gear. Actually, it's supposed to be 8 days of gear, but we only lasted 5. Down a ravine, back up the ravine, and then now we're not even to the starting point of our hike yet. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was Islip Saddle or something. And then we had to get there, and then we spent the night there because we were shot. And we were behind schedule, so guess what every other day was? Makeup day. And I can imagine you guys thinking, we got to make this up.
Yeah.
And how can you make it up on an unknown area, on slippery terrain, with limited access? Mm-hmm. And you have people that were helping you guys out, some staging people.
A couple people, yeah.
Being there to supply you. I was talking to Lee, and he says, yeah, I was waiting for 5 hours, and they were 5 hours late. I didn't know whether to call in a rescue team or what, because the communication was a little tough.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your support guys. Who was all supporting you?
So we had Lee supporting us. He was supposed to show up to Wright's place, and I personally packed. I said I don't know the situation. The situation in getting to Wright's place was an unknown.
Right.
So I told myself I'm going to pack for 5 days worth. That's going to hold me over, and if I have to ration it a little, I could probably stretch it 6, maybe even 7 if I have to. That's what I packed for, and the other guys in the group were a couple of them were kind of relying on having that resupply, and plus it's kind of nice to get some, a little change of stuff, maybe some food or something like that.
More beer.
More beer, exactly, yeah. And so yeah, he was helping us. Terry was helping us, and the unfortunate thing was that we were sending out these in-reach messages, updating the group like, hey, you know what, we're going to camp out here for the night. We're not going to proceed to Wright's place. And then it was like, Ron brought his dog along, which, I've hiked with that dog before, and nothing phases that dog. The dog we hiked up in, we call No-Go Valley.
Yes.
all the way up to this lake. And man, he led the way. It was skipping, tail wagging all the way up while we were huffing and puffing, So we brought this dog along, and it was obviously a very wrong decision given the terrain, because dogs don't do well in boulders, it turns out, and we have to take the dog by his carrying harness. It's a special built carrying harness that wraps around him. We were literally passing the dog to each other for, so factor that into the exhaustion. But so the in-reach messages sent out of order, that's what screwed everything up. so it was like, yeah, we're keeping going. It's just a little bit difficult, maybe with the dog or something like that. And then we're turning back to the bridge, and then another one came in. We're spending the night. So it was like they were all over the place. They got mixed out of order. I'm not sure what they got. Maybe communication could have been better.
Why do you think that message is? Is because when you sent them, it takes a while because of the reception?
Yeah, and you don't, Kip, I would see him, this is what I saw, Kip would type out a message and kind of hold it up in the air and set it on a rock, and it took time to, locate a satellite and send it. And if you sent, we thought, okay, it sent it. Well, it didn't mean that they received it,
Oh, yeah.
And we'd send another message from another location, and that one would send a lot quicker, and it would kind of order it, I guess, by what's easier to send to the person. I don't know. So for future, the people that are backpacking in difficult terrain, just be aware that sometimes maybe your messages will get sent out of order with an inReach. So yeah, I don't know if they have the timestamp. I didn't get to see the messages. This was all told to me, but I just want to say, man, thanks to Lee. He hung out and really was worried about our safety. And next time we're up here with him, man, we gotta we gotta do some, we got to treat that guy right, man. Squatching and, going up and down the roads, because I can't imagine how his trip was very enjoyable.
I got a chance to talk to him, and he says he was so busy. He's doing this, he's doing that, he's running over here, he's got to pick up somebody, transport this, waiting over here to get somebody. Because when we all talked about this, we all got on, I want to say Skype, I can't remember, how do we do
Skype, Zoom, something like that.
Yeah. And there was a lot more people that were going to be involved in this. And I'm guilty of this too, because I was Mr. Sarcasm when I was on it, and then I drop out, right? Give you guys a hard time. And then other people do too, for whatever reason it comes up. And then now you have a limited crew. Sometimes having less people to worry about is better, but having more people to take care of each other is also good.
Yeah.
Then you had more people to help out with extrication or dropping off drops. Now you have less. And poor Lee's he came here early. He's running all over the place. And I love that guy. A little story on Lee here.
Same here.
Right here where we're sitting in the shade, but where Kip has his rig sit out here. This was last year, I think it was. And this city car drives up. When I say city cars, you look at our vehicles here, we got four-wheel drives. So here comes this little city car, right? Drives up, and this guy gets out. And we're like, hey, how's it going? And can we help you with anything? Because we're expected to give tours down to the film site and stuff. He gets out, and he goes, you must be Robert. And then he goes, you must be Kip, because he recognized us by our voice. You see, I listen to all your podcasts, been following some of your videos.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so he recognized our voice. So then we get him suckered in to help out with this expedition. He's all excited about it. And then it's like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to be this involved.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got, That used to be me, how Lee pulled up. So, it makes me feel even kind of worse for him, but it also makes me appreciate him that much more. I was the guy that was like, man, I gotta meet this Robert Leiterman guy, dude. I gotta this Rowdy Kelly dude. I was like, these guys are the guys in Bigfooting that I want to meet. I listen to all the podcasts, and then I come up here, and of course you guys are the nicest guys ever, and it was great. And had you guys said, I'm going on a trip and this and that, I would have been like, heck yeah, I'll help you guys,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I would have done the same thing. And, what kind of treatment would I expect?
Right.
I feel bad that we were completely exhausted, dehydrated when we got out, and he was right there at the trailhead. I got some water, some beers, some food for you guys, some beef jerky, and we had to, me and Ron had to sit there and wait for 2 hours for someone else, for Tate to come back down. He drove Tate back up. So, man, Lee, if you're listening, man, dude, I am beyond thankful for you, and I feel like I really owe you, and I think all the other guys feel that way too. And because it happened at the tail end of your trip, we weren't able to express that, and I really wish that you were back up here with us and came squatching with us a couple more nights and kind of got to live the good life of up here, not the run around and try and save these guys' life.
Yeah, like the internal customer. Okay, I worked my ass off. Insert proper word there, and now it's time to relax. But he had other things to do, because I missed his window too, because I came up the day after he left, and he was driving home when I called him, and he kind of filled me in on a few things, and he would love to come back. He's not like he's totally burned out. And he wants to come back, and he would like to have more help, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we ever tried this again, I even suggested maybe doing it in reverse, the Patterson-Gimlin film site to Wright's Place, or Wright's Place to there. But, it wouldn't be so you mentioned, failed expeditions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We've only tried this once. This is our first time. Sometimes stuff like this takes a few tries.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes scouting, and we had no scouting. This was technically the scouting for it. And as far as, I was on board with not talking about it, just do it and then show you results. I got looped into doing come on this podcast and let's talk about it. And I was like, oh God, no. Okay. And, you do feel like obligated. And I know that in, maybe certain circles of the Bigfoot community, you got some people that just love to sit around and, they should do that. Let me tell you how it's done. And they, hand me that beer right there and I'll tell you how to do it. It's like, okay, cool, buddy. You know what? But they didn't get to see the things that I saw. And it was really an adventure. And if I could go back in time without the knowledge and do it again, I'd do it again. I'd do it again. I don't feel like it was a loss. I liked it.
Yeah. Like,
we were beat up and stuff, but it's like, I like what we did. Yeah. And we made a good, strong showing. Given the terrain, I don't think I can count 20 people I know that would have turned around just a short distance into it.
That's so true, because I underestimated my abilities when I was younger. And now I overestimate my abilities. And so I've learned a great big lesson growing older, that you can't just eat the whole pie in one bite. You have to work at little bits at a time. And you're as strong as your weakest link. You're as strong as the person next to you that maybe isn't as knowledgeable or isn't as good as shape. So now you have to slow down to accommodate them. Yeah. And I know the frustration of that. Like when I used to ride my bike and I was training for triathlons, my wife hated riding with me. She goes, everything's a race to you. I don't want them squeezing in training. And you're one of those athlete types too. So you have like a 5-speed and everybody's running 2 speeds. You're like, you have to slow down. But you didn't feel that in this at all.
No, I didn't. I was like surprised that we kept up. That I was surprised that we moved as quick as we did. And the thing is like, it wasn't built for a fast hiker like me. It was built for, Jesus, I don't know. It was built for anybody. But like, I'll say this, I was moving as fast as Kip. Kip wasn't like, I can't say somebody was slower than another. Like, I was behind Kip, and like that's how fast I was moving over these boulders and through the water. And it was constant. We would stop at these crossings and be like, we would all talk about, what's the best way to get through this. We even talked about ropes here, and there's a big swimming hole up here that we'd have to wade through, but it'd be clear after that. We can walk. No, let's just do this waist deep through the fast current, and we'd all kind of come to a consensus. So it was like there was no speed to it, like there was like nobody was ahead of another. I think it kind of leveled us all out to the point of your average old human being.
Good.
I can't cross the river, and in the end, Kip said, I think I'm more fatigued than you guys, and I'm going to spend the night. I was so thankful he said that, because I didn't realize until I put my pad out, put my sleeping bag on it, and laid down. I was like, oh my God, I would not make it back to the bridge. Like, I would have been in a situation where the sun's going down, and I'm trying to race, and, I don't know how we didn't snap an ankle. I don't know how nobody has some sort of spiral fracture on their femur after this. I mean, it was really that dangerous and really that difficult.
Like, it's dangerous to run downhill,
but
it's safer to hike or walk uphill. I mean, I know you've done sections of this creek just like I have, and walking downstream with the water pushing you, going a little faster than you want, and you're trying to slow it down. I can imagine that taking place on your exit march.
Yeah.
Oh, it's getting late. We need to move faster. And then the group starts getting stretched out. Yeah. And then the people in the back trying to catch up. And I know I've gotten older to a point where it's like, bye-bye, I'll see you guys later. Don't worry about me, I got it covered. As long as I have a buddy with me, I'm great. Versus everybody, trying to force the whole speed along.
Yeah. No, we were all moving at the same speed. Then nobody would stop and wait for a long time. There was none of that. So
Yeah, I got to ask this question. Because
yeah.
I've been on expeditions where you think you know everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but you haven't spent stressful periods with these people.
Mm-hmm.
And like my best friends in the world, we're on Pacific Crest Trail,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in charge of the logistics of it. And I've had some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And now our relationship is getting stressed because we're hungry, we're tired. Are we there yet? You said it was only 6 miles. Why are we hiking 12?
Yeah.
You know, it's so the burden of all that stuff. Did you learn something about your partners that you never knew before? And did you learn something about yourself that you never knew before?
Yeah. I did learn something about myself. And, I kind of admitted this. I said, I did make a little push on saying, guys, I think we can make it back to the bridge if we start right now. We'll make it to the bridge by sundown. That was my judgment at the time. And had they agreed, maybe if I was sold it more in a persuasive way, what if they agreed with me and we went back to the bridge and we get stuck halfway and moving through? I mean, it would have been a huge mistake. And I learned that my judgment isn't solid and then I need to listen to other people, which I did. That part was good about me. But I learned that my judgment in hiking back, I learned this the next day. We did the rest of the hike back to the bridge. And I'm like, you know what? Jesus, I wouldn't have made it. Thank God I didn't listen to myself. And thank God they didn't listen to me. And thank God they listened to Kip. And, I said, I told myself, I said, Kip has more experience when to call it when it looks like an emergency situation. Mm-hmm. He's dealt with lots of emergency situations in his lifetime, in his long career. I said, I'm going to bite into it and say, yeah, sure, we do spend the night. And the next day I go, I could have made it. I go, we're all safe.
That's the important thing, yeah.
I went with that, and I ended up learning. I said, Kip was completely right about it. So I learned that about myself. My judgment was off as far as what I could do in getting back to the bridge. And I also learned, Kip was real solid, and you can if you didn't know that he had his background in like wildlands firefighting, and if you didn't know that, you would have suspected it about him. You would have said, this guy, there's more to him, because he made such a solid decision and said it in a way where everybody agreed. Yeah. So I learned that. It was our buddy Tate's first time cowboy camping. Maybe he'll tell you about that. And
yeah.
But it was really cool, and I'm glad I was with the guys I was with.
Yeah.
Because none of us have these big old egos and strong opinions about things. We're pretty flexible guys, and, we were able to get out of this without, like, hating each other. And
that's important.
Because you spend, that many hours in a rigorous situation, and, there's a term called hangry. You're hungry and exhausted and short-tempered, and somebody's telling you, you should do this, and you should do that, and you're... Yeah. We got through it, man, and everybody's happy with each other.
That's good. Yeah. You shared with me what you learned about yourself, too. What did you learn new about, if you don't mind sharing, you don't have to, about your partners on this trip?
Well, I learned that Kip definitely lived the career he did, making the decision he did, and, about, Ron and taking his dog Bandit. Ron mentioned, this wasn't a hike for the dog, and we didn't know there was so many boulders. If there was a few, it'd be okay. But, I didn't learn too much new about Ron. He just kind of, he's a pretty solid dude, and there were no surprises, and he kind of went along with the good decisions. He's a lot stronger than I thought, man, because, he was carrying Bandit up his dog Bandit up through some really rigorous places. I can't say I've spent a lot of time, walking the roads at night with these guys, and, that has some sort of aspect of, like, danger and, I guess, fear at times, and uncertainty is what I should say. So we've been in, situations of uncertainty before, so I think that this one wasn't, like, a big eye-opener.
Right.
So
and you guys picked your partners. You guys said, okay, we are a team.
Yeah.
We didn't say, okay, hey, you want to come on this trip? You pretty much chose the people you're compatible with, that you can work together on the trip.
Tate kind of invited. These are people that we've kind of known for years. There was no one new. Just like a lot of backpacking groups, they'll go up together. with people that they trust and can confide in, because it only takes one person to, start going, guys, I've never hiked an elevation before, and it's like, oh, you're done. That's it.
Doubt.
Somebody's got to go back to the car with them.
Yeah, you can't just say, we'll see you in 4 days.
Yeah.
Or we'll send somebody to come get you. How's that?
Yeah. I did learn that Google Earth is not accurate in canyons, okay?
People use Google Earth to locate film sites. It's just not the same thing.
Yeah.
And you've been in sections of this. We went when Rowdy, Ian, and myself, we went to Scorpion. You joined us.
Yeah.
You were with another crew, and you came up and you actually joined us.
Yeah.
And we had lunch. It was great. And so you're familiar with a lot of these sections along here. So
yeah. I expected it to be like that. And they're beautiful sections of the creek. They're like ankle deep, some knee deep, and you're wading through the water. Yeah, there's some slippery rocks, but you take your time, you'll be okay. And that's a hike I'd like to do again up to Scorpion.
Yeah,
it's a nice one.
Actually, we were thinking about it. When I came up here, I feel like I was being left out of the whole thing. And well, maybe we can just start at the berm and just go to Scorpion and spend a couple of nights there. And like we did before, is we sent little one-day trips out of there, just walking up the creek looking for stuff. We'll probably do that again. We saw October, September, to do cool things like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anything else you want to add about the creek? Not the creek, about the
river.
Well,
Bluff River.
Bluff River 19 or 2.
Bluff River 2. Yeah. No, it's just some people, like I said, might look at it as a negative thing that we turned around so quick, but I went into this not knowing it was a hike into the unknown. Mm-hmm. That's what it was, and I was kind of prepared to. I kept saying, maybe we'll see a section with the 10-foot waterfall that we didn't know was there, and we can't get up it, and we'd have to turn around.
Yep.
I said, and I was fully ready to accept that, and that's pretty much what happened. So I'm not surprised at all that we ran into that situation. I was kind of prepared for it. That's why I kind of wanted to talk about the after, not the before, not setting it up.
Right. That's one of the problems about investing a lot of time into something. And I think the reason it was brought up, maybe get some sponsorship or let people know that this was in the works, and that so people pay attention to it and look forward to hearing about this adventure.
Yeah.
But that only works really well if you're very successful.
Correct. Yeah.
And then when you're not successful, you let a lot of people down. A lot of people were looking forward to it, and they go, why couldn't these guys are in pretty good shape and they know the area? Why couldn't they hike it? Why couldn't they finish it? Mm-hmm. And you got to put up with that.
Wait till you see my footage. I made sure to stop. I was mid-creek and going, this is so difficult. I go, people have to see this. And I'd pull out my camera and, Ron or Tate would be like, dude, careful, don't drop that thing. Because you drop something, it's going to take off. It's gone. You'll never see it again. So I'm like waist deep, pulling out my camera just to show people. I wanted to show people. That's the thing. That's kind of the thing with my channel. I wanted to get into this place to show people what it's like, and it's exactly what I'm going to do. So when you watch my video, there'll be no question as to why they turned around. Yeah.
And matter of fact, the question is why didn't they turn around earlier?
Yeah, that's going to be the question. Actually, they're going to be like, "Oh, these idiots went too far." But you know what? That's. Yeah, I'm glad we did what we did.
And better, no injuries, great experiences, learned a lot about each other's, and for planning in the future, a better way of thinking about what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to get off topic a little bit. You do a lot of stuff. You have a lot of videos up. What is if somebody wanted to see stuff you've done before, where can they go to it, and what are they looking for?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Western Bigfoot Exploration, and I have some interesting content. We've been up here and had some strange experiences, and one thing I'm huge on is I really want to document and record. If I record something strange, I don't just want to say, "Oh, we heard some knocks last night." I want to tell you where we were, who was there. I want to talk to the people who heard them and their opinion on it. And in the end, that whole, a wood knock that you heard might be insignificant, but it's something people might want to see, and they're going down there, I guess Bigfoot journey, learning more about the subject or their curiosity, and then I just want everything documented absolutely properly. I want to show everything. So if something does ever happen around me, it's going to be documented to like the full extent, but also in a cinematic way that you can enjoy watching, because it can get real boring real quick. So you'll see some of that. You'll see some stuff on the Patterson-Gimlin film site. And one thing I'm putting up that you'll be interested in this, I did the best of my ability to do tour of the Patterson-Gimlin film site, and I started from the berm and hiked down, and I want to say I filmed 70 to 80% of the hike, and I'm just kind of yapping as I'm filming it. And I talk about, you guys talk about the Bluff Creek Project, and how all that information is pretty much being regurgitated from you guys.
Oh yeah, well, and, that's what happens.
yeah. And hopefully it gets, this information just keeps getting passed on. So 50 years from now, some young whippersnapper knows all the information himself and continues doing this, and continues the legacy of the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Oh yeah, you nailed it with the legacy. Mm-hmm. It's like, when we started getting involved, it's like, well, we feel like we had to start over to find the site, and we did. We confirmed it, and then you go, what else can you do? Well, there's so much to learn from that. So we're like building upon that, and then it's like a torch. We get too old and decrepit, our walker can't go very fast, so we pass the torch to the next generation, and then they're excited. Yeah. They add to that. And then you'll pass it on to somebody else to add to that. Mm-hmm. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want the legacy to die. We don't want people to forget where things are and forget about it, like it happened way back in, not that long ago, actually. 2003. Where, I don't know. Some people knew, but they didn't know the other people knew, and it's crazy. But this is great. Almost to a point when we go down there and you say, oh, there's people coming now. Mm-hmm. Oh, we broke up a fire ring on the film site. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I wish they wouldn't do that. Or the stumps are starting to get decayed, tore up. It's like, are the bears doing that, or are people doing that? Mm-hmm. And it's all cleared out so you can see pretty good, and you're starting to find trash in places now. And it's like, you always ask the question and go, should we have not done this? Should we have let it stay status quo? Mm-hmm. But once you build it, they will come. Once you open it up, people come to see it.
Correct, yeah.
And so now we just want people, I know you're the same way about the philosophy of this, is we want people to treat it as not like their redneck shithole, but treat it as a place, a sanctuary that you were taught the same thing, that leave it cleaner cleaner than it was when you arrived.
Correct, yeah.
And I love to see that. And I think I watched some of your footage, and you promote that concept as well. Respect and keep it clean, and just to tease us, you put all this beautiful scenery up there.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that crossed my mind, like, I have a daughter, she's 8, and Sophia, and she's 8 years old, and she sees her dad going on all this Bigfoot stuff, and having his YouTube channel and stuff. So she's interested in it as well, and just to shorten it up, like, she has this little book by Dr. Meldrum that was written for kids. Oh. And it's really neat, and he signed it for her. And when he shares that on social media, we actually gave him some pictures that he can share of her. It's the little girl you see in Dr. Meldrum's ads for his book is my daughter. But
I didn't know that was your daughter.
Yeah,
I saw the ads.
Yeah, so she has an interest in it, and I just think, one day she's going to be a teenager, and maybe we'll hike down here, and I want her to see it just like I saw it my first time. I want her to go, wow, like this is it. I can see it. I can make out the sandbar. And I can see the stumps, and I want it to be that way for her and, other people's kids.
I feel the same way about it. But it's funny, because since we've worked so much on it, you've helped us with this as well, is you can see things. You can see the artifacts now.
Yeah.
And what do you mean it was lost? It's right here. We can see it. People forget that, it was a forest at one time, and you had to thin it out a little bit just to see the artifacts and everything. But that's the part that people forget about.
Let me add something real quick, because this is one thing that I learned from you guys, and I applied, and I was very proud of. I went to the Paul Freeman film site. Okay. And when I went to the Paul Freeman film site, I went there with a gigantic tape measure, and I thought to myself, I'm going to try my best to play Bluff Creek Project guy at the Freeman film site. And I walked up and down, and I went there with a guy named Mike Casey, and we walked up and down and up and down and up and down, and I swear to you, just like here, you can see why things happen, and it plays out before your eyes. Only that site's newer. I don't know if that's a word. It's newer.
More recent.
More recent.
Yeah.
And, it was in 1992, and it still looks like it did in 1992. The pathways are the same, but there were a couple things that I noticed that Cliff Brackman didn't notice, and that Michael Freeman didn't notice. And I credit that to you guys, and I see how you guys made the observations and the things that you looked at. And I went there with that same mindset, and I found these few things. There's a second part where Paul Freeman had kind of picked up his camera, and if you look at it, there's going to be a cleaned up, sharpened version of this coming out soon. August 26th, they're going to premiere it at some Idaho SquatchCon. And you can see what looks like some Bigfoot pick up a little one, and the little one wraps its feet around the big one, right? And they didn't know exactly where Paul was standing. And there's this one little frame where he swings the camera around, and you can see these tiny little stumps, and one of them has a notch out, and there's a smaller stump behind it. And I said, that's all I need right there, the stumps. And I went and I found the stumps, and they couldn't find the stumps. So I to my knowledge, they didn't mention or say that they knew exactly where it was. I know exactly where he stood because I found those two stumps. So having come down here and just nerding out on how you guys found that film site, I can apply that stuff to the Freeman film site. I found where Freeman stood when he was initially filming the prints, and the creek was running to his left, and you have this tree, and it's all covered in foliage. You can't see it, but if you look into the trees, you see this tiny little hole there, and I'm like, that's that divot in that tree, and I'm like, this is where he initially stood. And I think Daniel Perez had been up there, and there was some not controversy, but he couldn't really pinpoint a couple locations. And I disagree with a certain rock he showed, and I can show why. And it's one of those my films, and my little documentary that I made about it is in the can. I'm still editing it, but yeah, I went there, and so thanks to the stuff that I learned here, I was able to make some observations over there that I'm kind of proud of.
Oh, cool. I mean, we approached it scientifically. I mean, scientific and squatching is usually not the same thing,
Correct.
And we encourage people to take a scientific approach to it, and documenting things by location, positions, and those windows.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're aware of this, but Bart did his thermal footage, and we had 3 to 4 heat signatures, bipedal people of some kind, moving back and forth, or standing, or dropping a rock, or throwing something. And looking at the windows or the view sheds and trying to line up and get the angles. I mean, it was a challenge, but I feel better about the research with that, and I'm excited. I know you're working on some projects, but I didn't know you were doing this one.
Yeah, I went up there on a whim. I didn't know it was so close to me. It's about 4.5 hours from me in Boise, Idaho, and I drove up there, and like I said, met a dude named Mike Casey, and we kind of went through it, and I was just like, I was on such a mission to plot this out, and we drew a little map, and just like here with the Patterson-Gimlin film site, lo and behold, like, you can kind of tell, when you watch it on screen, you don't understand why Patty's just walking across the sandbar, but when you get there, you go, oh, Roger tripped in this creek right here, running. He did run after her, and he ran quite some distance, and then she's walking that way because that's the only way out,
right?
Yeah. And when you go to the Freeman film site, you realize, oh, that's why this thing crossed right in front of him right here. Because if he walks 10 feet back, it's just like thick foliage and rocks. And also, you can't get to the creek through there. You'd have to cross a certain way. It's just like the easiest path would be to quickly cross right there through it down to that creek. So,
well,
it dips down, and it's like it's all there before your eyes if you know how to look at it.
And people don't naturally have that ability. They have to be taught.
Correct.
And like, you watch a good movie, and if you're into videography or whatever, I like the way you did that shot, and then you start doing those shots. I like the way they pan like this, so you start doing that. So all your research, and people look at this stuff, you're teaching them how to do research.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about it. Yeah, cool. Yeah. And I think I'm trying to think back when I first met you. Do you remember the year when we first met?
Oh man, 2015.
Yeah,
maybe 16.
It was after the film site.
2006. No. I'm sorry. We're talking. Oh boy. Oh, I can't.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah. 18 maybe.
It was funny. Now that I'm older, I try to go, when did we first meet? I always think about under what situation did you run into these people? Because there's no such thing as coincidence, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, nobody's that lucky, right? Yeah, so it's like things were meant to happen. You kind of go through the thing, and you meet people, and eventually you regroup with them. It's like I meet a lot of people, but I never think that I'll see these people again, and then we'll be research buddies, or we'll be on adventures together, or I'll be on an expedition, go up a canyon that I'll drop out of.
Yeah.
Just before it gets started in that one, and so it's pretty cool. Yeah, is there anything else you want to add, or anything on top of your mind, or any advice for people who are, because there's a lot of people documenting these days. I mean, everybody's got a camera, I'm going to do a YouTube channel, There's a lot of people that are talking that stuff. And we see them driving about, hanging out of cars. Like yesterday, the day before yesterday, I was going towards Elk Valley, and I had my son with me. And we passed this vehicle, and there's dudes sitting in the back of it, and they got cameras in their hands and stuff. You're like, oh, they're out filming. It's adventure filming. And then I think about that, and I go, well, we did the same thing. We were hanging out of cars, and we were unsafely standing in back of pickup trucks, running cameras to get a different perspective. It's like we all thought we were filmers. We're all,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all going to be, we're going to have this hot YouTube channel with all this great stuff, and we don't.
Yeah.
But.
Well, you think that's funny, but like, me, I watched all these like old Matt Moneymaker Bluff Creek little episodes that he made back in the day. The editing's all screwed, kind of all over it's all over the place.
Yeah.
There's a little sound in the background that goes tick, 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 that drives you nuts. And guess what? I watched all of those, man, because it was so cool watching you guys try to find the film site. I just remember this one shot of Ian at Louse Camp, and they're showing him all the data, and he was so hell-bent on it wasn't the film site. And to watch him go, oh my God, it is. It really is the film site then. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I was like, this is the stuff that I'm interested in. I was like, this is really neat.
The human aspect of it.
The human aspect of it. Other than that, there's the bigfooting, and then there's the science that you have to do if you want to give it credibility. For me, I want to show the stuff that happens out here that most people chalk up as experiences. I want to try and document them as much as I can, and who knows, one day I'll come across something that runs across the road at me, and I'm able to film it. I feel like I'm going to do a much, much, much better job at just documenting absolutely everything about it. So when some scholar in 20 years goes, well, let me look into that footage, he's going to go, wow, all of the information that I could have wondered about it is there.
That's the cool thing about documentation. And I know the video you talk about is the Bluff Creek Film Site Project. And there's like 72 of those things. Yeah. And we included our camera project parts in there and a few other things. And there are all these little mini things, and people don't watch them all, but sometimes they go, well, you guys are like lost. I'm watching you guys get lost. And it's just like, well, yeah. And then Jamie went over and tried to put them all together, and to condense them a little bit. But when he did that, there's a weird recording sound that does that click, click, click. I don't know what it is. So the talk of us was, why don't we take those footages, blend them together, and record it so it doesn't have that background noise on it. But now the quality of recording is much better than the one we had back then.
Yeah.
So it looks like all we need to do is just put little scratches on those parts of the filming and say, this is the old ancient film we took. And then we have our high def good stuff now. And then we can dark screen or black screen, green screen, whatever, interviews of us talking about it, and then seeing us looking much younger, and then piecing the puzzle together for the journey. We were going to turn it all down to I guess YouTube, 72 submissions at about 10 minutes to 12 minutes a pop. It's a lot of footage.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to stay awake. It's like a Gone with the Wind movie. So it's just like, it's like, well, we can edit that out and narrow it down just so it's available to see the journey of it. Because a lot of that's repetitive, because when we went out, it was Groundhog Day. We learned something new.
Yeah.
And we thought it was important to share, but we already shared it. But it would not from this perspective, because this is a new perspective. So now you get that repetition. Like when I teach, it's like you build a foundation, and then you add to that, and then you check them, and then you retell them again to make sure they got it. But people don't want that. But And I don't know if I want to sit down into editing 72.
There are
times
people like me that
12.
sat down and watched almost all of them. So
I take my hat off to you. Dustin Sievers is another guy who watched everything too.
yeah,
He's a part of our group.
yeah.
He's got a book coming out.
Oh, he does good because he's a historian guy and he knows tons of history and he's really cool to talk to. I love talking to that guy.
Oh yeah, he's got so much that he had to put it in 2 books.
Wow.
So he's got it in 2. So book 1 should be out soon. And I was excited about interviewing him. He goes, "Well, I don't want to talk about the book till I'm ready to talk about the book." I go, "Okay, I have a calendar. What should I get another year calendar out? When are you gonna be ready to talk about it?" So it's coming pretty close.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
he's pretty articulate about it, and he did so much work on it. Just the fact that he did the research
Mm-hmm.
and all the trouble he had to go through getting information.
Yeah.
That's a story right there.
Mm.
So in the future, soon
Yeah.
we'll have him on for that.
Yeah. I talked to him a few times about his methods of getting information, and man, not easy. You know, you have to make a lot of phone calls and talk to people. A lot of people you don't know. That a lot of those people from that era are old and very reluctant to talk to anyone. You know.
Yeah.
So
we
props
just
to him.
We just lost Burns not too long ago.
Yeah, just a couple days ago, I happened to see that. You know, that's a sad thing. You know, to say he brought this. There was this big joke of Bigfoot for a while, and I feel like that started to go by the wayside. And Ray Wallace running out there to all the press and media, and they liked interviewing him because he'd tell the crazy story. And I feel like all of a sudden there came this guy from what, is he Nepal or something? He's Nepalese, and he comes over, and all of a sudden there's this seriousness to this subject.
Yeah.
You know, it's not crazy anymore. And you got Peter Byrne you listen to Peter Byrne talk, and it's like, well, okay, this thing might really be out there if this guy's looking for it.
Oh yeah, I guess he's from England.
Mm-hmm.
And he spent time over there leading tiger hunts and
Mm-hmm.
checking out in the Himalayas, spending some time up there, and then eventually he hears about there's this thing called Bigfoot. Lives in California.
Mm.
Comes back, gets involved with that research, and
Mhm.
maybe he's never left after that. But I never got to meet him.
Same,
Some of his
yeah.
photos are in the book. I got permission and paid him for some of the photos, and I was always looking forward to getting a chance to meet him, and I never have.
Oh, bummer.
I guess the moral of that story is, don't wait. If there's somebody you want to meet, don't just wait for an opportunity. Give them a call. I guess the best way to meet these people who are involved with this are I don't want to say symposiums, but just what do you call them now?
Oh, these conferences,
yeah.
people, yeah.
There's conferences everywhere now, and there's a lot of speakers on there. A lot of them I really like to get a chance to meet and hear what they have to say in person and ask them questions. But yeah, a lot of conferences, and you might think about that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm very anti-Bigfoot conference.
Yeah.
But I just, I have several reasons that I am, but I had a very different list of people that I've wanted to meet than other people's lists. And I remember on my list was Robert Leiterman and Rowdy Kelly, and I've checked those off. Another one was Bart Catino, and I've checked that off.
Cool.
But I have just maybe a couple more that I'm really interested in meeting and spending time with or being out in the field with. It's mostly field guys that I want to spend all the time with and see what they do, because they have really, really good names out there. And some of them float really under the radar. If I mentioned them here, people wouldn't even know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, you could check Tate off the list of that.
I could check the world famous Tate off the list. I got to meet him and see his methods of research.
And get to participate with him on an expedition too.
Correct.
Up a canyon.
Up a canyon.
I guess one of the original, just taking it back to the original trip, one that we were looking for a name to call it, and we all submitted something. And were you the one who submitted Up the Creek Without a Paddle?
I don't think that was me, but maybe Kip.
It was one of the names. We're all looking for a name to call it. Just said about BC-19 or whatever it was. I go, that's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about a fancy name that's kind of funny, but yet, little do we know that sometimes the names we come up with really describe what happened. The process of going through it. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. Well, I know you have to head home, because I appreciate you taking the time here.
Oh man, no, thanks for talking. I'd love to talk about it. talking about it made me come to some realizations too. So that's cool.
That's good. Yeah, my plan is to interview everybody who was on the expedition and get a different perspective, because everybody has expectations of what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else learned something new about themselves and their buddies, and also have a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has a different story. Like one person says, yeah, it was great. One person says, well, no. And then it's like they didn't like it for some reason, and other people liked it for other reasons.
Uh-huh.
And I like your approach. I'm kind of a history buff now,
Mm-hmm.
and everything has a purpose, and everything is unique about it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I drive an old road. I want to know when the road was built, or why was it built, and what sort of
Same here. Yeah, same here. Yeah.
I love that. That's why I love, one of the many things I love about you is that.
Yeah.
And plus, you always say nice things about me too, and I like to hear that. That's cool.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan.
No problem.
Yeah, that
No
concludes
problem.
this one. We'll have a few more, and thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys later.
These canyon walls carry my tune. The only one to hear my song. All the coyotes